Greetings YouTube and welcome to my latest weapons build. I'm going to be working on a Warhammer. Now I used this piece of square stock tubing here as the material for the striking heads on my Hydra flail. If you haven't watched the Hydra flail video, you should. It was a really lovely little project. I had a lot of fun on it. And I cut 3 sections that were essentially cubes and turned those into striking heads. But I still have this thing, and it's a really nice quality piece of steel. And so what I want to do is I want to cut a Warhammer head out of this, and I want to have it look fairly realistic in the fact that real-world Warhammers did not look like Thor's Mjolnir. That is not what they looked like. They were far smaller. They were designed to penetrate armor. So this is what I'm going to use as my base for the head. And I'm thinking of doing is 3 inches. This is going to be the shaft, so it'll be 3 inches on one side, 3 inches on the other, and then it's the space in the middle. And I'm going to have this sitting like a T, like that. Now, to join these two things together, I'm going to use this piece of flat stock I've got here, which is 1/4 inch thick. It's very strong. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it sitting about that deep into this shaft. Now, that hole right there is from this, because originally this was part of a commercial like store clothing rack, and that was part of how you snapped it together to assemble it. Well, I don't need that, so I removed it. Sadly, the nice handy hole that's already there doesn't really help me because it doesn't go far enough. I want it down there deeper because I want to be able to put 2 fasteners in here so I very much can keep it from moving this way. This will be sitting flat on here. And then this is going to go right through the middle. I'm going to cut a slot in here and pass this right through the center of the head. On the outside, I'm going to put a small point, not a huge point, but a small point. You know, probably 60 degrees, maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't decided what it's going to look like when I'm finished. That's still up in the air. Some of that's going to be aesthetics. I'm thinking of putting this as my butt cap because I want a definite butt cap, because if you slide your hand down this thing, I want to make sure you don't have it slide off the shaft. And I'm going to be using this method to hold it on, where I drill a hole here and then I drill a hole I drill a hole through there with a 1/4 20 and I stick it out like that. So this is inside on the 1/4 20, that's on the outside, and then you just thread it and it pulls it all together. It's a method that I've used before and I've quite liked it. I used an eye bolt last time, but I had this one here in my collection, so I'm like, it's the same thing, it'll work. It'll hold on to a 1/4 20 bolt without any problem, so that's what I'm going to use it now, because it didn't cost me anything. So this is recovered from another project. I took that off another build and I decided I didn't need that component as much as I wanted it for this one. This was already in my collection, this was already in my collection, and this was already in my collection. So the current investment in additional parts is 0. These are all things I already had in my shop. I think I paid $1 for this. I don't even have a memory where I got that from. This was bought new, but I've used it for 5 projects so far. It'll be the 6th one, I think. So the cost per project is pretty low. So that's kind of cool. This is just a file I happen to have. I picked that up recently, and I haven't had a chance to put it away yet. Actually, does it have teeth on the side? It does not have teeth on the side. Oh, it does have teeth on the sides, and they may not use, because what I want to do here is I want to put points on this, and not really sharp points. What do I mean by that? Well, real Warhammers had teeth in the sense that they had points on the striking surface for the purposes of hitting, when they hit the armor, not to skate off the armor. So I want to create something like that, but I want to preserve this curve here. So I'm going to put short slots in the end, so I create angled, right-angled teeth, 4 of them, and that way, if they are impacting, you'll have this whole structure to support it, rather than if I took the corners out, you would just have the thinness of the wall. I mean, not that it's not real thin material, but still, having the corner there makes it a much more sturdy structural object, and be able to handle a heck of a lot more of abuse. I don't know if I'll use this one. I have another file which has quite a little bit wider. I may use that one. I haven't decided yet. So I'm going to put some teeth here, so this thing looks, so this has a little bit more of a classical look. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to put a slug in here or not. I've thought about it, but this is a pretty solid piece of metal. I don't know if I need a slug of metal in here, because in the real world, it would be a solid piece of steel, not a tube. But I think that would still kind of be cool in some ways to have the slug there. So I haven't decided. That's not a process, part of this process that I really have to worry about right now. My first job is going to be to cut this, because once I get that done, then I can get the slot in it and get this fit. And once I get that fit in here, then it comes into making the slot in here and getting this installed in the shaft, because I really need this actually installed in the shaft completely. Then I can slide this on there and take some measurements and everything and figure out where I want the hole to go in this for this, because there will be a bolt that goes through here and attaches it. So this here, I can drill, I know exactly where it's going to be, but I want to make sure that I get it exactly on this. So again, this will go in here first, the slotted head will go on there, and then I will find the hole, because I don't want any play. I want it to be as secure as I possibly can make it. That's my goal here. So first thing up is going to be cutting the head. So I know I need to figure out the width of this. I think it's 3/4 of an inch. So I want 3 inches, 3/4 of an inch, and then 3 inches. So I need to make a cut at that length, which is going to probably be 6 and 3/4 inches. And then I'm going to put a slope on it, because I want there to be a point on the back side. Square front in the front striking surface, and a point in the back for armor penetration, for our softer targets, because that'll be very useful for getting to like leather armor or unarmored opponents. Get right through that with a point on the back. It'll just be a slope. It's not that they'll still be flat on the top. So that's the first thing I got to do. Take some measurements, make some markups, and then do a straight cut. Zounk with my angle grinder. This is already done. Then this will be put out of the way. Then I can start working on this, getting into this. So first up, let's cut a hammerhead. This was a lot of work. So here's the completed head. I have the pole that's going to go all the way through. It's going to hold the head in place onto this piece of bar stock. The points I talked about are right there. I used a square file to put that in there, a little bit bigger than the one that's sitting there. Those two files were the files I used for the slot. It's not perfect, I freely admit that, but when you're drilling, I don't have a milling machine, I have a drilling machine, and when you're drilling, I can get a very accurate hole on the top, but when it gets to the bottom, because I can put a point, I put a nice little divot for my drill bit with a punch, but there's no punch on the bottom. So the bottom holes almost always walk on me slightly. Even if I go incredibly slowly, they tend to walk on me. And so that means that the slots on the bottom here, as you can see more scalloping here. It's because they walked more, and so I ended up figuring out that was the side that put it most in the middle, so I flattened that side out the best, and then I just took off what I needed to get those out of the way, and then so that's what I ended up with. So this side's almost perfectly straight, and that is, I guess, got scallops in it. On this one, it was the opposite. This is the one that's pretty straight, and this one, so yeah, it's actually the same side. Oh, son of a gun. I turned it upside down. I thought it was a different side. It's the same side, so they were walking that way on me. Very annoying. If I had a milling machine, this would be so much easier, and not to mention it would open up so many build concepts. I should have made, I put this in before I measured where the slot was going to be. That's fine, but I should have put this further that way. Should have made it a little less acute, maybe a little more obtuse, and then that would have been a bit more meat there. But yeah, that's fine. That's not going anywhere. And once I have this installed, remember, this is going to sit squarely on top of this piece of tubing. So that's going to be nice. So there's this is now complete. So the next stage is going to be figuring out the holes for this. Actually, I'm going to not cut this yet, because I need to get this all set. this is probably going to be the thing I cut last. Because once I know exactly where this is going, that will give me the knowledge of exactly how much I'm going to have to play with. So I don't want to put that into the very last step. So that's going to be my final step as far as the head of the Warhammer goes. So this is going to now be where I'm going to figure out how deep this goes. And I'm going to drill a hole in line with this because I want to put the slot this way. I might as well just go, might as well take advantage of the fact that there is a hole there, so that means that I won't have to cut through that section. And put a hole here, a 1/4 inch hole. That will be the flex for the whole thing, and then I can cut a slot all the way to it, and that's really frustrating. It takes quite a bit of effort, particularly seeing as I have to make a slot that's a 1/4 inch wide. So I have to draw a slot that's a 1/4 inch wide, and then I have to use an angle grinder and try to cut it with the width of the angle grinder. It would leave, if I did a perfect job, would leave just a sliver. It would be like a 1/16 of an inch thick, and that never works out. So what I ended up doing is I ended up getting a slot, and then I end up having to nibble it until I get it to the size I want it. It's very tedious. If I had a mill, that would not be a problem because you just go at the mill and you're done. So much simpler. And once I get to figure out how what it goes, I also need to put these 2 holes in for the. I'll probably put one there and one there for to hold the whole thing together, and then also keep it from moving this way. So I'm trying to lock all of this in so that I'm eliminating as much motion as possible. This is going to be prevented from going this way by 2 bolts, and it's going to be prevented from torquing because it's going to be inside here, and it's going to be prevented going back and forth because again it's inside here and it's very rigid. This is the one thing that's really going to have to be on the tight side. So I may make the hole here ever so slightly high, so I really have to push that bolt through. I want that bolt to really be pulling this thing down. That would be my ideal. So we're going to see how that goes. I'm probably going to do it this way. Get this. I have to take that off too. Had a hard time getting it off. Now I guess I have no choice because it's going to be in my way. Because believe it or not, that much material would actually not go through here. I grabbed the wrong end once. I'm like, why won't my end it? Oh, I had to grab the wrong end because I'd already deburred this one. So yeah. All right. So this is done. Awesome. Next, I got to figure out what this is going to be so that I can then drill holes in here. 3 holes, 2 cross pieces for the bolt holes, and then 1 inline hole for the slot. Here is the head now fitted. I have the transitional blade, my flat stock, which is going to pull this whole thing together. And I will be putting an angle on this. This is not just going to end here because it would be too painful to the hand. I'm going to put a slope on both sides, but that is aesthetics. I'm not worried about that right now. And I've decided that's what the point's going to be. So when I'm finished locating the head, then I will draw in what I want for I'll mark off the limit, and then from there just make a point that meets in the middle, and that'll be it. I'm not going to put a big. I'm not going to make that real sharp, but I will put an edge on it before I'm finished. So now it's time to do this. So I have to pull this thing really tight together. I haven't figured out 100% how to do that yet. I may put 2 clamps on either side to pull this as tight as I can against this. That may be my best bet to get the biggest fit I can possibly, and then make a mark with this punch right here, which fits. Oh, it did fit in those holes. Maybe I need a smaller one on this one. This one fits a 1/4 bolt, but apparently it doesn't fit this one. So I'll have to get a slightly smaller one to fit in here. But this one fit in these 2 holes. I don't know why it's not fitting in that one. But yeah, get a punch in there, go straight down, keep it as vertical as possible, and then make that mark. And then that will be the last hole I need to drill in this. This will be then as complete as far as holes are concerned. Then I'll remove it. I'll make some marks once I get this installed. I'll make the tip marks. I can mark this now while it's in here. That doesn't matter. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer. All right. So now I'm going to be drilling a hole through this cap so that I can mount it on the shaft. It's a little bit larger than I really want, but I don't have any copper pieces caps here at the moment. So since I'm just screwing this on, I can remove it and put a new one on there without a problem. So I'm going to be kind of freehanding it. I've got this thing mounted into a machinist vise, but the vise is not attached to this. I'm just going to be holding it because I don't have it all lined up and everything. Lining up this with a punch and stuff is a pain in the butt. So I'm kind of be freehanding this one. And this was a great deal. I got this for $8 at an antique place of all places. But it's a great little vise. It really is, and it's in pretty decent shape. So we're going to turn the light on so I have a little bit of illumination. And I think I got that where I want it. Move this just a smidge this way. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And we're going to see how much success we've got. Check and see if that folds the right size. There's the bolt I need to put in it, and the answer is just barely. Oh, that's kind of snug. I think I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna walk it on that, drill a bit, just a smidge to open it up. So we're gonna take this off like this. Take that out. Put this out of the way. I do not need it at the moment. I'm going to put a glove on because what I'm about to do is semi-dangerous, and I don't feel like getting hurt. There we go. Sometimes you got to give it a little bit of, put a little English on it to get that to make the right size hole. But yeah, so that's the way I put a cap in there. So I'm now going to put this onto that 1/4-20 bolt, which will be going through the shaft, screwing it in place, and now whenever I figure out what the excess is, I will cut off the excess so it's not in the way. So, because I don't have any button, I don't have any acorn nuts the right diameter for this. I got 1/4-20 ones kicking around, 20s, but I don't have any size of this, which I think is an 832, but I'm not positive. Alrighty, so that's how I go about drilling one of those things. All the components are now ready, so now we're just at the assembly stage. So everything is now completed. I've got the hole for the cap down there. I've got everything here all set. This actually worked out better than I thought it was going to. I actually got one side done almost perfectly. I mean, I needed to nibble just a tiny bit. The other side was a little more problematic. That one required a little bit more work on it. But the first one, I got lucky. It just came out really nice in the first try. Sometimes, you know, things work in your favor. Okay, so time for assembly. So here is the final design. So we have the cap here, which keeps your hand from going off the end. And you can actually look in there and kind of see the threaded shaft. It comes up and it's hooking around this cross piece here. I would use an eye bolt, but I didn't have an eye bolt the right side. But I had that hook, and it works. So here we have the head, and there is a bit of a wobble. I haven't quite figured out how to get rid of that right now. But I've been working at this almost all day, so I'm done. I'm going to work. If I can come up with a clever idea to solve that particular problem, I will implement it. And if I can't come up with a clever idea, I'm not going to worry about it. Because again, while this is a functional thing, I could actually use it to hit something with. It's an art piece, and if it has a little bit of wobble in it, it has a little wobble in it, and I can live with that. So I got my points the way I wanted them. I got this point here. I got this here coming up to a nice edge. It's not uber sharp, but it's definitely coming to an edge right there, which is quite nice. This transition is quite comfortable. The balance point on this thing is about here. And I've given it a few swings. I find that to hold it in two hands, I'm putting one here and I'm putting one here, and then I'm kind of sliding my hand down as I go. to get the full swing, because I really want the impact as far out as possible. But this thing is going to hit like a truck even without any weight in it. It's not a small head. It's got some nice points, and it's got a lot of a mass behind it, because you got to get everything up here is acting as additional mass. And I really am quite happy with this transition I made between the shaft and the head and this transitional plate I'm using, this bar stock, because it took me a while to come up with that idea. My first idea had been completely different, and I realized that I would probably not be able to make it work the way I wanted it to. And so I started playing with the idea, like, what can I do? What can I do? And then I realized, well, you've pinched things before to secure them, so why don't you just do that, except you slide this on the end. So that's where the idea came from. So I'm quite happy with this. It came out quite nicely. Alrighty, so thank you for being here. Now it's time to go outside and get some pictures for this video, as well as my DeviantArt and my Instagram. And if you don't follow me on those, you should. My DeviantArt is the permanent home of all of my weapon builds, the stills I take. And my Instagram is where I post pictures of projects, deals I find, just salvage things I get, as well as cute cat pics. And of course, everyone needs more cute cat pics in their lives. So, thank you for being here, folks. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you'll come back for the next one.